Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 123 CMMC. My name is Dana Mantilia, and I will be your host. And our guest today is Kelly Kendall. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I'm great, Dana. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. So before we get started, I want to have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about you and your company and put your contact information up there. So let's dive right into this. So the name of your company is KNC. And what do you do at KNC?
So at KNC Strategic Services, we are a cybersecurity professional services provider. We work mostly in the defense contractor, state, local, federal government agencies, transportation and utilities space, if you will. We do a lot in the compliance area, assessments, gap analysis, vulnerability assessments, pen testing, all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay. All right. Now here's a good question. So what does KNC stand for?
This is a really important question because it's the secret that nobody knows. So insiders will be once you hear this. So it stands for Kelly, Nick, Chuck. Very, very hard to come up with. Yeah. So those are the three founders of the company. Myself as a disabled veteran Marine, Nick is another disabled veteran combat Marine as well, out in kind of the Chicago area. And then my business partner, Chuck Baresh, who is a huge supporter of veterans. So yes, that's what KNC stands for.
Now we all know. Now we all know. Mystery is solved.
Yes.
Okay, so speaking of the Department of Defense and all that kind of good stuff, so what are you doing within the CMMC Marketplace?
Good question. So we're heavily entrenched in it right now on two sides. One is on the consulting side, working with multiple small businesses, helping them in the preparing for the eventual assessments. But then we're also called a candidate certified third-party assessor organization right now. So we're at the stage where we're waiting for our own assessment to be done by the DIBCAC. Once they get those back up and running, and once they figure out a few things related to smaller organizations that are trying to be the C3PAOs as well. So we're entrenched on both sides, and we'll eventually be doing the assessments once it's all worked out and smooth running, hopefully.
Well, that's great. So you're pretty far down the pike there as far as
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so in addition to being far down the pipe, what's making you unique versus everybody else out there that's trying to get involved in this little world?
You know, it's a interesting thing because there's a lot about us that's different than maybe your typical organization pursuing this. There's a lot of people in the cybersecurity space that are jumping into this from different angles, but we come from it from a combination of a consulting and compliance background combined with IT and product knowledge and the kind of IT value-added reseller side. It's something that we do in when we need it for a client. We can provide software, more my background. So we kind of bring this we can bring solutions there. In consulting space, cybersecurity and compliance, all the way up to old days of Sarbanes-Oxley compliance efforts. So we bring multiple angles and multiple perspectives, and I think that really helps us working with our clients because we have such a broad base that we can draw from. So I think that makes us unique, but also more importantly, we are a veteran-owned small business, disabled veteran-owned, and we're extremely passionate about helping the veteran community. We have a Veterans First hiring policy, which is very important to us. But most importantly, we have dedicated 10% of our annual profits that will go directly to help military and veteran families in dire need. That is a tremendous commitment that Chuck and I made in the very beginning, and we're both very passionate about that. And now that we're getting here close to the end of the year, we're excited because next month we will be determining exactly how we're going to allocate those funds, if you will. But what we decided is what can we do more for veterans and what can we do more for those funds? And so we decided let's form a nonprofit. Let's put those funds into the nonprofit. The nonprofit can go after grants and donations and do more. And so what it ultimately became is a nonprofit that has a cybersecurity apprenticeship program for transitioning service members and new veterans to get trained and educated through a true 18-month apprenticeship program. So yeah, that's I think that just kind of rounds out and shows a little bit more about not just what we do, but who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fabulous. And can you just go into a little bit more of that program? I know that you and I have spoken about that program before, but just for everybody else, because
Sure.
I know it's only for veterans, but it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. So just a
It
little more
is.
detail.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. So it is, as I mentioned, just a full-on apprenticeship program. It's approved by the Department of Labor, by the state of California, and we're just about to launch our first cohort of candidates here within probably the next month to 2 months at the latest. We're at a stage now where everything's ready. We're just working on the fundraising efforts to be able to get launched. It's a program that will take someone who's in the last 6 months of their active duty service, ideally, through a program called Skills Bridge, where they can start participating in the pre-apprenticeship program. So that's the first 6 months, and it's all about getting them prepared to go into the civilian workforce. So it's soft skills, but we call them power skills. It's getting training on things like communication, which is going to be the biggest, because when we come out of the military, we don't really talk like normal people. We have a lot of lingo and colorful comments and just weird things. And it's a stupid joke, but anybody that's in the military knows, if you walk up to someone after you've gotten out of the military at your first job and say, excuse me, do you know where the head is? They're just going to look at you like you're a crazy person and not know what you're talking about. And it's a silly example, but it's a perfect one, because even me, I've been out 25 years, and there's still stuff I say, I'm sure, that came from the military. And one example is about 2 years ago, someone said, you're the only person I ever hear that says we should do a debrief on that. He goes, you must have been in the military. And I'm sitting there thinking about debrief. I've been saying that forever. What are you talking about? Didn't even, realize that was something that was just not common. And so those are kind of silly examples, but it's true. So our program was to try to help them in that first 6 months prepare as much as possible. Then they go into the true 12-month apprenticeship program, where every 3 months they're working for a different employer, 40 hours a week, full time, and they're getting different experience to, different cultures, different mentoring experiences, different training experiences. And so we're really excited about it. By the time they get done, they'll have 10 major industry recognized cybersecurity certifications. They'll have 1 year of true experience. And so all this will ultimately qualify them for quote unquote entry level cybersecurity position, because we all know that cyber entry level is not normal entry level. So we're really excited about it. We've got great support. We've got employer sponsors that are just about to come on board. We've got a board of directors that's phenomenal. We've got an advisory board supported by many people that have been on your show. So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm very excited about it.
I think that's fantastic. That really, really is. You guys should be very proud of yourself that you're doing that. So that's really, really great information you just gave us about you and what you're doing with your company, and then what you're doing with this organization. And it's all good stuff. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Kelly, you can see scrolling on the bottom is his email address and his phone number. So please reach out to him if you think he can help you with any of your cybersecurity needs.
Vulnerabilities remediated. Businesses today face a number of cybersecurity challenges, from compliance requirements and third-party risk to skilled resource shortages, ransomware, and alert fatigue. At Vulnera, we recognize these challenges and offer solutions to do the heavy lifting. Vulnera empowers organizations with security solutions that perform continuous asset discovery, vulnerability assessments, and remediation validation in a single pane of glass, so your team can focus precious time on what matters: remediation. Vulnera.com. Vulnerabilities remediated.
So today we are going to talk about CMMC and small businesses. This is a big one because a lot of these companies in the DIB are small businesses. Maybe people don't realize that necessarily. So CMMC may be quite a little thing to tackle. So let's get into a little bit of this. So what are some of the challenges that may affect small businesses with CMMC?
I think probably the biggest is that they don't have the resources in-house like Lockheed Martin or some ginormous prime has, with a full-fledged cybersecurity team and everything they need. Small businesses typically, these are the single-person engineer to the 250 plus, typical small business. They might have one IT person on staff, maybe a couple if they're lucky. Most of them, from what we've seen, and it's very common, are outsourcing all of the traditional IT management to an MSP. So they're doing all the break and fix, and I forgot to plug in my computer where I won't turn on type stuff. So that's very, very common. So they don't have even the in-house IT expertise, much less someone with cybersecurity expertise. So first, the biggest challenge is trying to understand all this stuff. We're almost like cybersecurity interpreters, if you will. Because we're coming to them trying to help them understand all this stuff, even in just questionnaires that they keep getting from prime contractor that they work with, and is telling them you need to do this right now. So a lot of it is just they don't have the experience, they don't have the people, and they don't have the understanding to interpret and figure out all this stuff to even get started on it. So that's been a big challenge over the last year and a half, of course, with small businesses. What do we do? What do we do to get started? How do we get help? And there's a lot of organizations like ours as cybersecurity consultants that are out there helping small businesses, but there's not as much of a focus on it because obviously there's huge enterprises, large primes, other primes that are multi-thousand employers, but small business, I don't want to say they're getting left out, but it's just not as much of a focus because in a way it's harder. They might not have the budgets available to allocate to it. There's a lot of challenges that come in the small business space.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like we mentioned before, there's a lot of companies that are small businesses that are a very intricate part of the overall, DIB, and so we have to make sure that they're going to be able to pull this off. So, do you work with a lot of small businesses, medium businesses? What size is your typical client?
All the defense contractors we work with have been small businesses, so it's kind of become our forte, and we like it. It's small business manufacturers, small business software developers, small business technology companies, and it's a different bear, especially like if you're dealing with a manufacturer of aerospace parts versus someone who develops software. There's a lot of diversity in what they have and what they need to do. And for us, we just love it. We're a small business. We're entrepreneurs. We like the small business space. We love trying to help out other defense contractors. We're working to be a defense contractor ourselves. So it's just a space that we're familiar with, and small businesses need some very hands-on help. And what we always come to the table with is we'll do everything you don't want to do. We're not trying to come in and do everything for you. We'll come in and help you to do as much as you can. Anything you want to do or you can do, that's great. That's going to make it obviously cheaper. We'll do the stuff that you don't want to do or can't do. And that's worked well with our clients. It's always gone across very well.
Yeah, that sounds like a good, tactic to take, because that way, exactly like you just said, they can decide based on their budget, based on the available time that they have and their knowledge that they have of what they can take on and can't take on. So that's nice that you structure it like that. I'm sure people appreciate that. They do that. It's not just this or this. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about this and get an idea of what you want to, do here and what you want us to do. So,
yep.
Now here's a big question that I'm asking everybody and anybody. Is how are these small businesses finding out that this big train is coming down the tracks headed towards them in whatever form it winds up being in, CMMC 25.0, whatever it winds up being, how do they know it's happening?
It's CMMC 2.6493 revision 12. I think that's where, no, I'm just kidding. But, it's interesting, because most small businesses are finding out either through grapevine, rumorville, just, I don't know, press releases, they hear about it, or they're told to do it. And this is what we've experienced a lot more, which is they're subcontractors, if you will, to large primes. They supply parts, or they provide something that goes into something else that goes all the way up, rolls all the way up to some large prime. And those large primes are coming to them saying, you will get formerly CMMC level 3 if you want to keep doing business with us. And that's I'm sure the DoD expected that, but maybe didn't realize how much control and how much impact that would have, that those primes are driving this so much. So we're seeing a lot of them, they learned about it because all of a sudden one of the primes sent them an email and said, fill out this, 600,000 question page questionnaire and send it back to us within a day, and they read the questions and don't even understand what the heck they're asking for. So I think a lot of it has come that way, and the rest is just people hearing about it, and it's gotten a lot of notoriety, press, urgency because of some perceived deadlines, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting.
And I think sometimes, like you just mentioned, the language that the questions are worded with, they're very complicated and they're intimidating, and they may be asking something so simple. It's just kind of like, how do you give out software access to, people, and make sure it's the right level of access. But the way the questions are worded, they get so like, I don't know, I don't even know what this question's asking, kind of thing. So I'm sure you're very helpful in helping them understand what the question's actually asking, because they probably are doing quite a bit of the stuff that's in there. It's just the way that it's worded.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, is there anything else, any other words of wisdom you'd like to throw out there for small businesses, and anything to help them along the way here, CMMC?
Sure. I think probably the most important thing is just to take your time. Don't be, I don't want to say panicked. But there's been a sense of urgency, but also a sense of nervousness. But take your time. This takes a long time to implement, even just the 800-171 by itself before anything that was added onto it or taken away from it. So it takes time to implement this. It takes time to change your culture. We have seen, and we've worked with clients that are from scratch, have nothing, no policies, no procedures, nothing documented. They don't have any of the requirements met, essentially. And so we've helped them from scratch to working to get ready. So I think small businesses just need to understand it takes a lot of time to figure out these things, implement them, change your culture. Even just the security awareness training and getting that up and running for your clients, and getting them educated and getting them prepared, and then starting to teach them about what to expect and handling CUI and all this other stuff that goes on top of it. It's complex, but just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I say we're almost at the same kind of a time period right now with cybersecurity as, we were in the 80s when computers came into the office space. That was a big transition. Everybody, what do we do with these? And the people that developed the computers, they didn't want to be the ones that were going to explain to people how to use the computers. So, but we all adapted to that, just like we all need to adapt to this. So some will be quicker than others. But anyway, well, thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate this and all of your knowledge and everything you're doing for the vets. Everything that's fantastic. So anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And we hope to see you on the next episode of 123 CMMC. Take care.
Thank you, Dana. Take care.